8 signs a man has almost no emotional maturity, according to psychology. If you've ever been closely involved with someone who seems to struggle with their emotions, you may have found yourself dealing with a man who lacks emotional maturity. This is not about blaming or labeling, but recognizing patterns that can disrupt harmony in relationships. In this scenario, you might notice inconsistent behavior, a tendency to avoid genuine emotional connection, or difficulty coping with stress and conflict. Lacking emotional maturity doesn't make someone a bad person. It's not a conscious choice, but rather a developmental issue that can be addressed and improved. So, let's dive into the world of psychology and understand the signs of a man with almost no emotional maturity. This brief insight might help you better navigate your interactions and relationships. 1. Avoidance of emotional conversations. One classic sign of a man with almost no emotional maturity is his avoidance of deep emotional conversations. This might sound familiar to you. Imagine you're trying to discuss something significant that's bothering you in your relationship. But instead of engaging in the conversation, he might dismiss your concerns, change the subject, or even get defensive. This can leave you feeling unheard and invalidated. Emotional maturity involves being able to discuss feelings openly and honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. If a man consistently avoids these conversations, it's likely due to a lack of emotional maturity. This isn't about making him the bad guy. It's important to understand that this behavior often stems from an inability to handle deep feelings or fear of confrontation. It's not a deliberate attempt to hurt you, but it can result in strained communication and unresolved conflicts. Remember, identifying these signs is the first step towards understanding and creating healthier dynamics in a relationship. 2. Overly impulsive actions. On the surface, a man who is spontaneous and impulsive may seem exciting and fun, but if these actions are consistently without thought or consideration for consequences, it might be a sign of lacking emotional maturity. Impulsivity is often mistaken for spontaneity and freedom, but there's a fine line between the two. An emotionally mature individual knows when it's appropriate to act on a whim and when it's necessary to think things through. In contrast, a man with almost no emotional maturity may make hasty decisions, from quitting a job on the spot to making large unnecessary purchases without considering the financial impact. While these actions might seem bold or adventurous at first, they can lead to instability and stress in the long run. It's not about stifling fun or spontaneity, but about recognizing when impulsivity may be masking an inability to deal with emotions effectively. 3. Inability to handle criticism. No one likes to be criticized. It's a natural human reaction to feel defensive or upset when someone points out our flaws or mistakes. However, how we handle that criticism speaks volumes about our emotional maturity. A man lacking emotional maturity often reacts negatively to criticism, whether it's constructive or not. Instead of taking it as a chance to grow and improve, he may become offended, angry, or even resort to personal attacks. Research in psychology shows that our reaction to criticism is largely based on our self-esteem and emotional intelligence. Emotionally mature individuals are able to separate their self-worth from the criticism, seeing it as a learning opportunity rather than a personal attack. On the other hand, men with almost no emotional maturity may struggle with this distinction. They might view any form of criticism as a direct threat to their self-esteem, resulting in defensive or even aggressive behavior. Understanding this dynamic can help in fostering more productive conversations and managing conflicts better. Lack of empathy for others. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, and it's a fundamental aspect of emotional maturity. We all have moments when we find it challenging to see things from another's perspective, but consistent lack of empathy might indicate a deeper issue. If a man often seems indifferent to other people's feelings or struggles to show compassion in situations where it's needed, it could be a sign of emotional immaturity. This lack of empathy often comes from not fully understanding or dealing with his own emotions. It's important to remember that this doesn't make him wrong or bad. Everyone has their own journey, and emotional growth happens at different rates for everyone. It's also possible to learn and grow in empathy with patience, understanding, and perhaps some professional guidance. Recognizing these signs can be a positive step towards understanding each other better and fostering growth in your relationship. 5. Difficulty taking responsibility. We've all been there. It's hard to admit when we're wrong. It's even harder to take full responsibility for our actions, especially when they've hurt someone we care about. A man with almost no emotional maturity often struggles with this. He might blame others for his mistakes or find excuses for his actions rather than owning up to them. This might look like him blaming his boss for a missed deadline at work, or blaming you for his forgetfulness because you didn't remind him. Taking responsibility is a crucial part of emotional maturity. It involves acknowledging our actions, understanding their impact on others, and making amends where necessary. While it can be tough to confront these behaviors, understanding this pattern is an important step towards healthier interactions and better emotional growth. 6. Over-reliance on others for emotional support. Remember that friend who always seemed to lean on you for emotional support, but was hardly there when you needed a shoulder to lean on. This one-sided dynamic can be a sign of emotional immaturity. A man with little emotional maturity might constantly seek reassurance or emotional support from others, but struggle to reciprocate when it's their turn to provide comfort or understanding. This can lead to a draining relationship as the emotional burden falls heavily on one side. Emotional maturity includes the ability to manage one's own emotions and provide support for others. While it's perfectly okay and healthy to seek help and comfort from loved ones, a balanced give and take is essential in any relationship. If you notice this dynamic, it's worth addressing the issue openly and honestly. It might be a chance for growth and better understanding for both parties involved. 7. Unwillingness to compromise. Life is all about give and take. We don't always get our way, and that's okay. But if you're dealing with a man who stubbornly insists on having his way all the time, you might be dealing with emotional immaturity. In any relationship, compromise is key. It's about meeting halfway, respecting each other's needs and wants. A man lacking in emotional maturity, however, might view compromise as a loss rather than a collaborative solution. It's not your job to cater to his every whim or let go of your own needs for the sake of peace. A relationship should be a partnership, and that means both parties working together to find common ground. Don't hesitate to stand your ground and demand the respect and consideration you deserve. It's not about being demanding. It's about valuing your own worth and expecting the same in return. 8. Failure to recognize and respect boundaries. Above all, it's essential to remember that your feelings, needs, and boundaries are valid. If a man consistently fails to recognize and respect your boundaries, it's a clear sign of emotional immaturity. This could range from ignoring your request for space to dismissing your feelings or opinions. Respecting boundaries is fundamental in any relationship. It shows understanding, consideration, and respect for the other person's individuality and needs. However, if you find yourself in a situation where your boundaries are constantly being crossed, it's time to reevaluate. Remember, your well-being matters. It's okay to prioritize your emotional health and insist on the respect you deserve. You are not responsible for someone else's emotional growth. That journey is theirs to make. Conclusion. Understanding emotional maturity is about creating healthier and more fulfilled relationships. It's not about placing blame or creating labels. This article is a guide to help you identify signs of emotional immaturity. But remember, everyone grows at their own pace. Emotional growth is a journey, not a destination. Time spent understanding and nurturing your relationships is always worthwhile. And true emotional intelligence is knowing when to be patient, when to communicate, and when to stand your ground. It's about respecting your own needs while understanding those of others. Here's to fostering healthier, more understanding relationships and living a happier life.